You have to dig deep in times like this to try and find that other unique aspect that will keep your business going. And that's what we're trying to do.
So today I am chatting with Lorraine Heskin, who is the owner and founder of Gourmet Food Parlour, which has 6 locations nationwide. It's a upmarket cafe with locations in Dublin and also in Galway. Lorraine is an extremely passionate and driven business person who has grown the brand from nothing in 2006 to a multi-million pound business that it is today. If you haven't already done so, please click the subscribe button to get brand new content directly to your feed every single week. It's fantastic to have you on the podcast, Lorraine, so thanks a million for joining me.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for asking me. It's great to be here.
You're welcome. Let's, if you will, let's start, right? Because you're a Galway woman, so I think yeah. I'm from Galway as well. So if you will, can we start there, kind of with your kind of a quick run through kind of your early background before you set up your own company?
Yeah, of course, no problem at all. So I'm from Barna, a small village called Barna, County Galway. I went to Salerno Secondary School, and from there I left and I went to university in Limerick, where I studied for 5 years. I did business and economics and Spanish. And then from there, I went to work for IBM in Dublin. So that was kind of exciting. And I mean, it was back in, 2005, where, it was 1999. Okay, I'm a lot older than I just thought. And so the economy was doing quite well, and IBM were in the university, and they were recruiting for graduates. So I got a job in a graduate program with IBM, which is an amazing opportunity. But I suppose there was always something in me, Evan. I always wanted to travel. I always wanted to go away, and I'd never taken a J1 visa during the summers. I'd always worked in Rocha stores and got my way through the summers trying to save money to get through college for the following year. So I decided after a couple of years, 2 or 3 years of working with IBM, that I wanted to go to the States. Oh, I always wanted to go there. And so I literally transferred over, had a couple of opportunities that came my way, but one that I took was I left the whole technological industry behind and I went to work in the food business. I went to work for a company called Irish Food Distributors, who were based in New York, but they were the #1 importer of English and Irish foods on the east coast of the States. And I got a job at them as a sales rep in Manhattan. So that was basically walking the streets of Manhattan, selling all English and Irish foods, which was very, very easy for me to do because I love food anyway. But I mean, all the Irish brands, and you're really able, as an Irish person in America, you've got a huge advantage. So I trucked on with that, and I was promoted to working in the Bronx and Queens, and then I became their sales manager. So I stayed with them for a good few years, and I got huge experience, and I traveled and I went to amazing food shows, and I got to work with some exceptional people, and obviously I got to travel around the States, which is a really good experience for me. And then I went to work for as a consultant, a broker consultant in America. So basically what that means is that as a broker, you represent a manufacturer to the retailer. So if you manufacture, say, it was specialty food significantly, so it wasn't mainstream grocery. So what I did was I represented these brands, and I sold them into the retailers and to the wholesalers as well, in effect. And that was an amazing experience because I was in my mid-20s. I was really, really work focused, and I got to travel even more extensively, got to really develop some amazing contacts outside of the original industry that I had worked for. So I was a very lucky lady that I was going from one industry into the next. So it was amazing. But I think a huge part of that particular role as a broker, seeing as I was traveling so much, we used to entertain clients quite a bit in various different restaurants, and, living in America and having the opportunity to just even walk through the various amazing types of supermarkets they have, or the specialty food shops, or the small cafes, the small bakeries. All of those aspects were always so intriguing to me, and I love everything that is about service and people and atmosphere and good food and and enjoying yourself. So all of those aspects, I kind of, I was kind of entertaining them when I was in America. And then I came back after 4 or 5 years. I was living in America for 9/11, and I came back. I actually witnessed the planes going into the towers. I was on one of the bridges at the time. But it was an exceptional, like, obviously life-changing moment for me. And after that, I stayed in America. I couldn't believe, I suppose, the immense patriotism that they showed to their country and their fellow people that had passed away. So it was a very much a life-changing moment for like millions of people all over the world. But I stayed in America for a good few years after that, and I loved every second of it. And the only reason I left is because I kind of came to a crossroads in my life where I said, do I decide to stay in America now, or will I leave and go back home? And I'm such a I'm a real proud Irish person. I love Ireland, love my family, love my friends, missed everyone. So I decided to come home, and I could have stayed there, but I made the decision to come home, and I'm really glad that I did. So I went to work for Jacob's Biscuits. Actually, I got a fantastic opportunity to become the export sales and marketing manager, which I stayed in the role for 2.5 years, and that gave me an absolutely brilliant line of experience in manufacturing and just marketing from an Irish food perspective. It was phenomenal. So kind of, you look at that kind of circle that I kind of had, I suppose there's a lot of similarities within it. But again, there was always something in me, and I always wanted to have my own business, and particularly after coming back from America, where I had that real yearn in me. So that's where I decided to look at the opportunity of creating a brand, and that's where Gourmet Food Parlour came out of.
Excellent.
So that's it.
Let's get into it, Lorraine. So Gourmet Food Parlour, talk me through the kind of process of opening, and I suppose, where did the concept, what was it born in New York almost, that concept, or where did it come about?
I think it probably was, yeah. I mean, I think very much so. The concept, I suppose, the concept of the Gourmet Food Parlour was born in America, but I mean, it's a very much an organic brand, and what my vision was for the brand when I created it in 2006 is very different to what it is now. I could never have foreseen how it could have grown and how many strings to the bow of the brand there is now. And that is not down to me. That's down to, I suppose, how the brand started and the people who've worked in the business and the hard work that they've put into it, and the customer base and the loyalty and the support that we have. And all of those positive attributes really, really, really bring together to enable and have enabled the brand to grow. But it started very small, Evan. And when I started in 2006, so the Celtic Tiger was in full force. And basically, people were looking at me going, you want to what? You want to release a restaurant, a cafe? And they were like, what age are you? What do you want to do? So nobody took me seriously. And it took a very long time to try and find a unit with a landlord who would just give me a chance. I mean, literally, I was desperate in the end, so I found a very small unit on a side street off the main street in Dunleary, County Dublin. And that was where the brand started. So it was 7 Cumberland Street, Dunleary. And I'll never forget the landlord. He gave me a chance, and I'll never forget him as long as I live, because it's those moments that may seem insignificant at the time, but when you look back on them, they're absolutely huge moments in your life and in your career. And that was a big day. That was a big day because he enabled us to be able to start the business and start it from there. So it was exciting, very exciting.
Excellent. And I just want to pick up on a quote that I read, which I'd love to get your opinion on. And I'm going to kind of paraphrase here now. But basically, you said kind of when you started off the company that you didn't know much about the financial side, but what you knew you wanted to do was create a brand. And obviously, that's such a trendy word now, right? Everything is almost a brand. But I'd love to just kind of get your opinion on that, the whole, why did you want to create a brand? Why was that in your head? And what's the kind of process, I suppose, behind creating such a strong brand like you have?
Well, look, for me, if you look at what my background was, so my background is sales and marketing. So I wasn't a qualified accountant. So from that perspective, I'm a sales lady. I love sales. I love being able to find something fabulous and bring it through to the end. Even just creating something, selling it, and seeing a happy customer like that. There's a whole process within that. And the reason why I say brand is just from my background working with Jacobs and working with other products, like all the different brands that I worked with in the States. And the brand loyalty that I've seen over the years, and I suppose how significant a person's opinion about something associated with a brand is very, very strong. And I was involved in a lot of market research over the years about a consumer's perspective on a brand. It's like you look at Pepsi or Coke, you know, you're either a Pepsi drinker or you're a Coke drinker. So,
Yeah.
you know, and if you delve deeper into that, the reasons behind it are they're mind-boggling, but they're so intriguing. So, you know, you kind of say, I say to myself, and I always say this as well to everybody that I talk to, is when I talk to somebody and they stand outside a gourmet food parlour restaurant, or they see the brand in front of them, I want them to say, oh, that's a beautiful place, and I've been there, and they're good. That's a good place, and that's run by good people, and you know, and there's good food, and the staff are lovely. And so when you look at the word brand, from it is a flood of tributaries that you have to collect together to make this brand amazing. And it, you know, it's hard work, and you can never rest on your laurels, and it's never over. You know, yesterday's over, today's a new day. I always say that, because your brand could have amazing feedback yesterday, but you need to wake up this morning and it needs to be as fabulous today. So it's consistent, and it's learning from your mistakes and learning from customers' feedback and taking all that on board and driving on with your brand. And so I think it's all of those attributes and those aspects that make you, I suppose, that not make you, but make the brand what you really want it to be. And it's very personalized as well. I feel very strongly about my business. I love it. I love it more today than I did 15 years ago when I started it. And I'm very, very, very passionate about it, and very proud of it. So yeah, it's all of those things. I hope that answers your question.
No, 100%, and we'll get into all that now in a second, Lorraine. But can we go back for a minute to the original site in Dunleary? And I'd love to just ask you on that, because, like, right from the outset, and fast forward a couple of years, it looks like, you know, everything you've touched to turn to gold, right? And it's just been a massive success. But I'd love to kind of, and especially on this podcast, you know, a lot of listeners are restaurant owners. I'd love to kind of get your, maybe, like, was there any low point along the way? Was there any major struggles? Any big mistakes you made? I just think it's always interesting to kind of get that perspective that maybe you don't always.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the answers to those questions are yes, 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 and yes. And it may seem like everything that I touch turned to gold, but that certainly would not be the case. I have opened units that haven't been successful, and I've closed them down. And you have to make the decision to do that, because you can recognize, I suppose, opportunity in other parts of your business, but you also have to recognize when the business, you know, if certain units are not working out, you have to make that hard decision to close it down. I have had many moments over the years where I didn't know if I could keep the business going, if I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it, and if I didn't feel that I even had the strength to do it myself. Financially, there's been highs and lows over the years. I mean, I don't have any outside investors. I run the business is solely funded through myself and just from bank support. So from that perspective, you know, it has been really difficult managing cash flow and managing the whole business. That would have been a huge I suppose, like, negative point for me, trying to learn how to do all of that. When you're so passionate about your brand and your business, you know, you have to be as passionate about the backroom stuff. And it took me a very long time to realize that, Evan, because I'm very much a personality where I used to gravitate a lot towards what I loved, whereas really I probably need, as a business owner, you have to try and be an all-rounder as much as you can. And in the areas that you can't, you have to surround yourself by people who can pick up those weaknesses in you, because, you know, no business owner is perfect. Nobody is perfect. And I think by recognizing your imperfections, then you're doing yourself a huge justice at the beginning of setting up a business, because you know, it really can save you a lot of stress and a lot of downtime in your business. So look, from a financial point of view, there's been many tough times over the years, over 15 years. And I never take anything for granted. I'm not out of the woods yet, because I'm still growing the brand and I'm still wanting to develop it. And I think, I'm sure we'll talk about COVID and what I've done over the last year or so in terms of turning the business into a different arena. But so financially, we've had lots of pockets of difficulties, and then also just recognizing when something doesn't work out, because I'm full of ideas, and I count myself a very creative person, and I love trying new ideas, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't work, and you really want to be able to say when something's not going to work, you have to pick it, you have to pinpoint it, and then you got to stand up and you got to truck on with things. And then, as I said, I've had units that I've had to close down and walk away from. Well, that's okay though, because honestly, I've learned more from those units than I probably have from the more successful ones, and it's tough at the time. It's very, very tough. But I'll tell you, it's like you just take every day as it counts, and then you just, you have to fight through, keep fighting. You have to keep fighting, and you have to keep believing in what you always started your business off in the very beginning. What made you sit down and create this brand or create this business that you have established? And what was the love that you had for it then? It's nearly like a marriage. It's like a relationship. Do you know what I mean? You can't let anything, you can't let kids or whatever along the way get in your way. You have to keep focused on those brilliant things that you had at the beginning, those sparks that you had, and keep those sparks going. And again, I'll finish that question with surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with people that you can trust, and people who believe in what you're doing and have their own beliefs and bring their own elements to it, because there's a lot of gratification from that as well.
Right, fantastic. No, thanks so much for sharing that. That's really interesting. And
No problem.
thankfully,
I'm always very honest anyway. I'm always very honest. There's no point in, nothing is easy for anybody, Evan, and there's no point in saying it is. No business owner ever sails through, without any challenges or any negatives. And it's very important to talk about it, because it's good for me to talk about it just for my own sake. And then also it's good for other people to hear that maybe, other people can identify with some of the aspects that I've just mentioned there. And if it could even help one person, wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, no, I'm like, I thought this was a podcast, but it's kind of becoming like a shrink office or something. No, but I actually, on that point, I had Brody Sweeney. I chatted to Brody Sweeney, who owns Camille Restaurant Group, yesterday, and
very good.
he shared with me a fantastic segment, which is I just think people are going to really find interesting, which was how Camille was this close to closing, and how at the beginning it wasn't success at all. And he mentioned how it was just kind of perseverance and luck. Like, and if it wasn't for that, like the whole kind of business we wouldn't have even heard about it, which I thought was
which is insane. He's got a great story to tell, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure, absolutely. Right, let's jump on a little bit. So it has been a success, right? And thankfully, number one became number two, which became number three, and you continue to spread throughout Dublin to begin. But and I want to just talk to you about you have, is it 5 locations in Dublin now?
5, yeah.
And then you made the big jump to the big smoke, but opposite. And you went down to Galway.
I did.
I suppose, obviously, you're from Galway, but what was the kind of, like, were you a long time looking in Galway, and how did that whole thing come up, that opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, Galway, look at, when you're from, I head home to Galway a lot, when it's a non-lockdown situation and I'm free to travel. But I love Galway. I'm very proud to be from Galway, and all my friends and a lot of my family are down there. So I love going down. And look, for me, I'm always looking at opportunities, Evan. Always. I mean, it's always at the back of my mind. What's that like? What's that unit like? What could that be like? And I only ever get a real good feeling every now and again, because I don't want to have 100 of them, but I want, if I'm opening up new gourmet food parlour restaurants, I want them to be amazing, and I want them to be in an amazing location. So the location in Salt Hill, I'd loved it, and it was always under my eye. I was always keeping an eye on it, and then it just came up. It just became available, so I just decided to go for it, and it was a very popular unit now, I have to say. But anyway, look, I got it, and I'm delighted that I did. Put a lot of work into it. We revamped it to a great standard, and it's a beautiful upstairs downstairs restaurant. It's stunning. And there's an absolutely magical team of people working in there. Really, really, really great team in our restaurant in Salt Hill. So I'm really proud of it.
Excellent. No, I can attest to that. I've been in there a good few times. It is. I go on a Sunday back in the good old days pre-COVID. I used to go in on a Sunday. So it's very nice. But I'd love to just talk to you about that kind of. So you have 6 locations now. operationally, because there'll be listeners on this podcast that maybe have one restaurant, right, and they're scratching their heads, kind of trying to get everything sorted with one restaurant, and then here are you with 6 restaurants. So, like, just operationally, Lorraine, could you talk to us a little bit how you manage 6 restaurants, and particularly ones that are kind of over 100 miles apart?
Yeah, of course I can, no problem. So pre-COVID, March last year, I actually had 7 restaurants. I've ran the restaurant in house, Dublin on Leeson Street for the last 8 years. That's closed down. That hasn't been open since last March. But at the moment, I have 6 operating. And I also had what's called like a gourmet food parlour, kind of an express in various corporate buildings in Dublin city centre. So I've got a few of those as well. And then I also have a catering and event business, which is something that I created about, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, maybe more, 9 years ago. Started off very small with corporate catering, and then we've developed we've got a 5,000 square foot facility in Santry, and we specialise in sports catering, weddings, corporates, privates, you name it, whatever. We do it all. So it's not just 6 restaurants. There's a little bit more to it than that. And I have created a structure in the business over the last 6 years, and specifically detailed in the last 2 years, where I have a head office in Dublin, and within that I have a finance department. I have a marketing department, which includes a digital marketing manager and a full-time graphic designer. I have a full operations team where I have a head of operations, and I have 2 operations managers working full-time. I also have an executive chef, and then I have a HR manager, and then I have myself. And then we have various different catering coordinators who process the various orders, and they account manage the corporate side of the catering side of the business. So that's how I do it, and I couldn't do it without any of them. It's an amazing setup, and it's an amazing structure. And I set the structure up to be in a way to be able to absorb opening, say, 1 or 2 more restaurants if I possibly can. And so that's the way that I run it. And we would all have our own various meetings every week, because when you run a restaurant, it's not just about ordering the food, making the food, and serving the food. There is so much hard work that goes behind one restaurant. And I've been there. I've been the toilet cleaner. I've been the chef. I've been the psychologist, the psychiatrist, the receptionist, the purchaser, the buyer, the accounts person. I've been it all, and I understand all the balls that you have to juggle. It is extremely hard, and there's all those balls still have to be juggled all the way through, and there's more as your business develops. But it's very, very important to have a fresh head as much as you can, and to not, you have to really keep your eye on the stronger parts of the business. Like, I could get very, very bogged down in the detail of the cutlery not being right, or the napkins, or, all those details that to me are very, very, very strong and significant for when a customer walks in the restaurant. However, I have to be very, very strong in my time management, and I have to be able to dedicate my time to various tasks that are going to bring value to the business, bring value to my role, and then bring value to the business. And that counts for everybody who works in any business. Ultimately, what's your plan for the day? What's your plan for the week? And what do you want to achieve by close of business Friday or Sunday, or whatever your working week is? So it's very, very important to try and be focused. Some weeks are easier to do that than others, because in hospitality especially, there's so many curveballs that come our way on a day-to-day basis, so we do get distracted, but we do need to keep focused, and we do need to keep our eye on things. So that's how I keep an eye on it at the moment.
Excellent. No, that's fascinating. And I suppose to follow on from that point, and maybe a slightly tricky question, Lorraine, but you have all these different kind of areas of your business, and I'd love to just get your opinion on kind of, I suppose, the kind of the key areas when it comes to running a business, a restaurant business. I know it's a very difficult question to answer, but like, where would you kind of see the kind of main strong areas that people need to have?
Well, there's so many, Evan. There are just so many. First of all, you need to have a strong team. You need to have a very strong team who are focused and who believe in the same values as you and want the same goals for the business. You need to have a good menu. You need to have a really, really good customer service team on the floor. I think the flow of the restaurant, needs to be right. You need to have the right seating capacity. You need to be able to ascertain what your seating capacity is and how you can fit around, say, tables and covers on a time-to-time basis, so you can plan and set your goals, your sales targets for the week and for the month and for the year. So there's those aspects. You need to have very strong suppliers. You need to have very, very, very good relationships with your suppliers. They need to trust you and you need to trust them. You need to have a very good back office system, in my opinion. You need to have a very strong online reservation system. You also need to make sure that your phones are manned whenever they can, which can be difficult when you've got staff on the floor, if your phones are going straight to the restaurant, or if they're going to a central system. That needs to be foolproof. And again, I'll repeat this and I'll probably say it 100 more times, but you need to surround yourself with good people who will bring positivity to your life and to your career. And in turn, you will do the same for them, because creating a positive work environment is one of the most important things that you can ever do. And having respect for your team and everyone who's around you is vitally important. And last but not least, you need to have, obviously, customers walking through that door, and you need to create a very, very loyal customer base for your business and for your brand. And you need to be so grateful for that. And then you need to also have an amazing marketing plan. Social media is just phenomenal. All the platforms that you can promote your business on for free, essentially. And I mean, you can't underestimate the value of that. And then just marketing throughout the year. There's so many aspects of food that you need to be aware of, and festivals and Mother's Days and Father's Days, and things that are going on in your local area that you can expose your brand to. So it's trying to be 10 steps ahead of yourself. And then obviously you need to keep an eye on food trends and what's happening, and how does your business model fit in around all those food trends. It won't fit in around all of them, but it'll fit in around some. And it's just knowing your comfortable zone about expanding your business into those realms, I think.
Excellent. There's so much there, Lorraine. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you should look at writing a book or something, because there's lots of information in that. So
Yeah.
look, we have only so much time, Lorraine, and we could talk all day about that. But I'll finish up on a few quick ones, and I really appreciate your
Sure.
time.
No problem. No problem. Of course.
It's so. I made I have kind of one little rule on these little chat series that I have, which is I'm not going to give too much oxygen to COVID, right? Because I don't know about you, but I'm sick to the back teeth of it. But obviously, look, it's we have to, we have to mention it, right? It's there. So I suppose where I'm going with this is I'd love to kind of just get your kind of views. Like if you go back to say February 2020, right, before, or even maybe a bit before, but before kind of COVID was a thing, and your own kind of strategic plan going forward and progressing, and then obviously COVID hit. I'd love to get kind of your view on how has COVID affected, I suppose, the business.
Yeah, so look, it's affected it massively, Evan. And my plans in February 2020 versus my plans now are like they're like night and day. Right. In essence, I mean, predominantly I'm a restaurant business, so my restaurants are closed. So you can imagine the turnover is completely through the floor. I had a very strong catering and event business within the Gourmet Food Parlour umbrella that's now completely closed down. I'm only operating at a very small level because I'm very corporate focused in that. I'm lucky that the sports catering that I work on was still quite strong last year and has started very strong this year again, which is brilliant, and I'm delighted with that. But look, it's affected us massively. But what I will tell you is, I'm a glass half full girl, and I don't go down. I won't lie down, and I will not take all these hits. What happened with COVID is nobody's fault, and none of us have done anything wrong. So for all the businesses that have been affected, and for the business owners that have had to close down, those are the aspects that you look at, and your heart be in your mouth for people who have invested their livelihood for 20, 30 years and have now had to close down their business. And I've heard so many stories about that. And look, you have to fight. I mean, your body goes into fight or flight mode. And what I have done, and I have no special formula, and we're not any different to any other business, but we moved all our business online and on online platforms, and we created different ways for our customer base to get the food from Gourmet Food Parlour that they loved and that they missed. And we also dipped our toes into other areas that we would never have considered before, and we've created a new customer base from that. So we've just looked at new ways of trying to keep our business alive. All right, as I keep saying, I'm keeping the spark of the business alive until we can reopen again, and it forced us to do that. And I take many positives out of it, Evan, to be honest with you, because I'm really, really grateful to still have my business February 2021, almost a year later, and to still be here and to have the amazing team that I have with me and working by my side and doing an amazing job. And we work hard. I'll tell you, our team works so hard, like everybody else does. In the food business, you work hard, you really, really do. And you have to dig deep in times like this to try and find that other unique aspect that will keep your business going. And that's what we're trying to do. So it has affected us, but it's forced us to be extra creative and to work even harder to keep things going.
Very good. And like, although you're clearly a half glass half full type of person, like going back to March, like what was going through your head? Because and correct me now if I'm wrong, I could be wrong, but like I would look at kind of some places, like going back to that point, and I was looking at obviously the landscape, the restaurant landscape, and you'd look at some of my friends that I know that own one restaurant, and then I know other people that have own 5 and 6 restaurants. And at that point, I was kind of thinking, Christ, the guy that has 5 or 6 places is going to perhaps struggle more. So I suppose I'd love to just kind of get, like, was it a real worry to you, or did you just kind of fly through it?
I know it was a massive worry. Evan, God, a massive worry, and it still is. It's still a worry. I said earlier on, I don't ever take anything for granted, and I don't. And you're right, because with 6 or 7 different locations, they're all located in different areas, and different areas have different demands and different populations and different customer bases. So it is very much, just because you've got more doesn't mean it's any easier, because in essence, some of the restaurants that are very busy when they're open mightn't be so busy for takeaway. It's funny, there's no rhyme or reason to it. There's no magic of formula. But in saying that, I think, you really have to understand the area. You have to get your staff to really ask the customers what they're looking for. And you really have to try and come up with a solution per unit if that's needed, if there's a little bit of a struggle. But it was a worry, and it still is a worry, but you just have to keep going. Yeah, you have to keep going, and fingers crossed, hope that vaccinations get out there and that we can look to open in a few months' time when it's safe to do so.
Okay, all right. Let's leave that behind us and move on to my final question, which is more positive and forward-looking. But actually, just before I go there, before the final question, I'd love to ask you kind of, and it's something that I always ask guests I have on the show that have multiple locations, which is kind of like when it comes to opening up, because you said you're always looking at another location, and you're always looking at new units. Do you have kind of a criteria in mind, and what's that process like when it comes to opening up a new place somewhere? Like, what goes through your head? What do you look for?
Yeah, no, I do. I like to have a good mix of residential and commercial around any particular unit, if I can at all, because it really gives you 2 aspects. And because we're a breakfast, brunch, lunch, and dinner venue, you can also take away, and we've got the catering aspect of our business as well. It gives you that opportunity to be able to merge into different areas. So if there's a downtime or it's quieter, you could maybe focus on another aspect of the business. So a good mix of residential and commercial. I do the old-fashioned sitting in the car outside the unit at various times of the day and tick the amount of people who walk by the unit, what kind of footfall, what kind of transportation is there. But if you look at my restaurants, none of them are on the main street really of anywhere. We're all off the beaten track. And I'm in the suburbs. I never went for city centres. And why did I do that? I did that because I suppose I call my business not on the high street. And I did that just for rents and just even trying to get units and rates, and just the overheads used to just freak me out, to be honest with you. So I kind of said, if I'm going to build a brand, go back to what my original plan was, people will travel and people will come to it. Now I never went anywhere that was, you have to drive 10 miles out of your way to get there. But at the same time, when I look at it now and I look at it over the last year or two, it has been, that aspect has been a positive. And I suppose that was it. And I've just kind of stuck to my formula, and that's been it for me.
Excellent, Lorraine. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and like there's an energy and a passion in your voice, which I just find it's almost kind of motivating. So I want to just finish up
Oh,
on one final question, which is you don't strike me as a person that's finished, right? You don't strike me as a person that says that's it, 6 restaurants is enough, and maybe I'm wrong. But can you talk to me a little bit about what's the growth plan for Gourmet Food Parlour going forward?
well, you know what, Evan, at the moment, I've really, I suppose I've changed my focus in the last 12 months in that I can see that the future is going to be very much online. And it's going to be very much working with people like Just Eat and people who can get food to consumers that you don't have the ability to be able to do. So even though I have my own vans on the road and we do our own deliveries ourselves, but there are various different platforms that you can create new customer bases through. So I'm very much intrigued about all that area, e-commerce and online sales. And I created a new brand last year called Gourmet Gifts. It's a gifting website, gourmetgifts.ie. And basically you can go on and you can order lots of different foods, and you can combine different foods together in a gift box and send them to loved ones in Ireland and outside Ireland and Europe and throughout the world. And that's been amazing. And I'm starting to work with some new Irish suppliers like textiles and really cool notebooks that are made down in Cork from recycled coffee cups. And I've got like candles and incense burners, and I've got men's scarves. And there's loads of different things that we're doing. We're doing great Valentine's gifts for people. And then we're doing things like, just because. And there's a lovely box of like wines and chocolates and candles that, if you want to send to somebody who's struggling. Or we've got one that's sending lockdown love, which has got like all our gourmet at home meals, which we're doing as well. And if you want to send them some lemonades or wines or whatever you want to do. So I'm focusing on that. So I'm kind of not just about opening 10 more restaurants, but I'm kind of merging into I suppose different aspects under the Gourmet Food Parlour brand. But I'm never adverse to opening a restaurant in a fabulous location, and I'm always looking at new opportunities. So you never know what might happen.
Excellent. And I know I said that was the final one, but just a quick one.
Yeah.
I just out of curiosity, because obviously you're branching off into all sorts of different areas, but obviously all under the one umbrella of the Gourmet Food Parlour. Would you ever, and have you ever thought about it down the line? Do you think you'd ever do kind of a separate concept or a separate brand altogether, or are you just focused on Gourmet Food Parlour?
I think I probably would have, and I've thought about it a lot, Evan, and I have thought about creating a different concept, but I just don't think Gourmet Food Parlour is finished yet. I just think there's far too much of an opportunity for Gourmet Food Parlour, and I'm only one person with the team that I have, so we'll do it slowly. We're not in any rush to do anything crazy, but no, I think that Gourmet Food Parlour is still evolving on it by itself, and just the organic creativity that's within it, that comes from the brand, that comes from the customers, that come from the team. And, like even just new aspects that we launch all the time. And it's just overwhelming, the reaction by our customers. It's amazing. So I think that's my baby and that's my focus. And that'll be it for now, for the foreseeable. But you never know. I never say never. You never say no to anything. You just never know what might happen.
Excellent, Lorraine. We leave it there. We've only so much time, as I said, but honestly, it was so great to talk to you, and hopefully I'll get you on again at some stage in the future.
No problem at all. It was a real pleasure, and I really enjoyed talking to you. And fair play to you with the podcast. It's brilliant.
Lovely. Thanks
well done. Thanks a million, Evan. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for watching the Business of Restaurants podcast with me, Evan O'Callaghan. For new episodes every single week, subscribe below.